really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth, the podcast that brings you great content from all over the globe. I'm your host, David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. I'm easy to find on all your usual socials. And if you're old school, you can just drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. We are part of the Sports Social Network. If you haven't already, please click the little like button to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll really help grow the show. So it is my bittersweet duty to announce this is our final weekly review episode. Fear not, we're not going away. We're just sort of transitioning to a new state of being. For weekly coverage, I would point you to the Mall Street Journal, our new podcast concentrating on all things American rugby, while the Scrum of the Earth will continue in terms of the great interviews that I've been so lucky to get. And to commemorate almost 4 full years of uninterrupted weekly episodes, we're doing a very special one this week with some very special guests, some new folks that we haven't seen before, starting with, of course, a returning guest. It's the Stat Cat himself. Where am I here? Hugh Griffin. Hugh, of course, it's really great to see you. How are you doing, my friend?
I can't believe you forgot my name, David.
I didn't forget your name. I forgot where it was on the script.
After all this time. How am I? I'm sweating. That's how I am. It's above 30 degrees here in the UK, which if anybody's ever spent any time living in the UK, our infrastructure is not cut out for this. And it's a sweaty time. Although Maz, when we get to Maz, will one-up me very much on this front.
Of course, we've also got the vagabond rhapsodist of all things rugby, Harry Jones. How's it, Harry?
How's it, David? It's really nice to hear that you've been doing this for 4 years straight. That is a long period of time. Your diligence, your zeal is unmatched.
I've got a lot of verve, as they say. Finally, I'm very excited to have a brand new guest. She's the co-host of the Top 14 Digest. But if you listen to Hugh, it's pretty much all her. It's Madame Maz. Maz, welcome to the show. Ça va?
Très bien, merci, David. How are you?
I can't tell you how bummed I was when we started taking languages in school. Like, my brother it was 4 years ahead of me, and he came back from French and was told, "Oh, your name, Steve, is actually Etienne." And I was like, "Ooh, I wonder what my name's going to be." And it turns out my name is David in every damn language on the planet.
There's an actor called David Suchet who played Poirot. And I've always argued that he should either be David Suchet or David Suchet. You can't have David Suchet. It's one or the other.
Great actor.
That is a very good point.
Maz, it's so great to finally meet you. I'm a big fan of your show. I'm a big fan of Ube Bay. The insights you bring each week really just kind of make me feel like I know the team a little more up close and personal than I could otherwise. So thank you for doing all that work with Hugh, and thank you for joining us to chat today.
Thank you very much for the invite. I'm absolutely buzzing to be on here. And of course, talking about French rugby and my UBB. Always happy to be doing that. I've even got flags. Got flags. I always bring flags.
I never thought to check until I heard you guys talking about it. The amount of UBB merch, it's mind-boggling. You could spend 3 hours just cruising through the pages.
Not even the most merched team. Stade Francais take that biscuit.
Really?
You can get anything that you want. You can get it in pink with Stade Francais written on it.
That you definitely can't buy a Free Jacks ashtray. So that's all I'm saying. Harry, quick side note, speaking of the Free Jacks, the MLR final this weekend, there was a big South African contingent there. I saw Griquas jerseys. I saw Varsity Cup T-shirts. It was noticeable. But somehow you couldn't be bothered to make it.
Yeah, thanks for that slur. It's fun in rugby how many nonsensical jerseys show up. I remember I was in Saint-Étienne in France, and I was watching Samoa versus Argentina, of all things. And there was a rugby league Up the Waz jersey behind me, and it just makes no sense at all. People just rock up emblazoned with something. And no, I do think MLR has a distinct South African flavor. It also has a distinct Aussie flavor and Irish flavor. And one of the great things about MLR is the ability of some players to come and sort of prove their worth, or people at the end of the career to still hang on. And it was definitely a great event. The carnival atmosphere, the sighting of that in Rhode Island was pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
And I
Nice
think it
venue.
showed up well. It hasn't always been televised well. I mean, go on to top 14, which
true.
is the best. But I thought it looked good on the screen of ESPN2. It looked like a proper rugby pitch, and the proximity of the people and the vibe, which is important, the pageantry of it, started to take a bit of shape.
I mean, people don't realize how important it is, like having the field properly marked with only rugby markings. Like the Free Jacks home doesn't have that. It has high school football markings. It has lacrosse markings. Like there's multiple colors, and you can always see players kind of looking like, wait, where's the touchline?
Yeah, exactly. And just the actual feel of it, the sense of it. I mean, even sometimes you watch Super Rugby, it's a little too sandy looking or something, and then it flips back to sort of a prem game. You're like, oh no, this is proper. The proper hats, the proper beer being held in the right way. It looks beer soaked. It looks proper. And I think MLR is getting their mind around that. And also, I will also commend the fact that Alex C was on there doing scrum narratives that were meaningful, not just oh, dark arts. I mean, like, get into what is the dark art? Exactly how dark is it, and what's the art?
That was one of my funniest moments. Alex Corbacero was really clearly had to go to the bathroom and was trying to get out from one of those, the little like vinyl rope things, and he couldn't figure out how to unlatch it. And I was like, "Excuse me, Alex, let me get that for you."
Nice.
So clearly, I was the hero of the day. Obviously, I've got you all here together to talk about one thing, and that's the Curry Cup. It starts in about 4 weeks. Hugh, is this the year of the Grickwis?
Look, I don't think so. I think there was one of the Sharks' more fraudulent wins, the Curry Cup last year. But as always, I think it's always the most fun when the Cheetahs win it.
That's true.
You could not stump Hugh, David. I mean, you could talk about outer Mongolian rugby, and he's going to go, oh, yeah, Ulaanbaatar is a great scrum.
The women's team's doing well, yeah. Well, Maz, you'll quickly discover that the only thing I'm good at is badly wrong-footing my guests. So welcome to the show. I'm hoping that you were genuinely worried there for just a sec. The top 14, though.
I'm always genuinely worried.
Because you're a Griffins fan, though, more than the top 14.
Are the Cheetahs in the Curry Cup?
They are.
The Cheetahs are my team. Yeah. Because of Ruben Pienaar and Francois Stein.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah.
I was so upset when the Cheetahs were kicked out of the URC because my friend and I, she's a Glasgow Warriors fan, we had our Cheetahs outfits with the tails and the ears to go to a Cheetahs match, and then they were kicked out, and
that's what I love about
devastated.
Cheetahs. The fans don't just buy the jersey and wear that; they make it's like cosplay. Cheetahs fans, it's great.
Yeah, there's a great shop in all through France called Printemps, which stands for spring. And they have and gigantic rugby displays that are fantastic. I mean, there's like the Little Prince was flying in a little plane, and there's rugby paraphernalia and stuff. So, I think the whole idea of dressing up, when you look at the crowds in the French matches, there's so much art. It's not just enough to put on a little jersey. They really go all the way.
Well, the top 14, after, if my notes are correct, 684 rounds, dating back to 2017, I'm pretty sure, they finished their season this weekend. It was a season full of ups and downs. One of the most exciting iterations of this competition in the entire time I've been watching it, but that, to be fair, is only about 3 years. Maz, you've been following this competition closely for far longer than I. To kick us off, but before we talk about the final, what did you think about this season overall? If you had to give it a rating 1 to 10, where does the season land for you before we get into the actual game from this weekend?
I think it was a very good season for totally different reasons. I would give that quite a high 8.5, 9. I think it would be quite high up because it wasn't even just the standard of the rugby and the sensational tries and sold out matches, stadiums sold out for every home game. It was all the drama that goes on about French rugby as well, all the sacking of managers and players leaving mid-season, and I give him 100% support. He has my backing. He's going nowhere. Then Tuesday he gets his kind of little off you go letter. It's all that drama that's around the top coutures, and there was lots and lots of it this year. And yeah, it was a much, I think also a lot of some, I know it doesn't look like it sometimes on the table, but a lot of the games were closer.
Yeah.
As well. Some of the teams, right up until the very last round, you didn't know who was getting into the playoffs. You didn't really know who was going to be down in the relegation game. So there was lots of tension, lots of drama, lots of tears, lots of beers, and it was just fantastic.
The tears must be flowing in Grenoble, like always a bridesmaid, I guess.
Oh, six attempts in 3 years to get out of the Pro D2, and they just can't do it. And now them and Perpignan are up in front of the LNR tomorrow, I think, because there was a little bit of argy-bargy with supporters after the match, because
that's right.
Perpignan supporters went onto the pitch and there was a little bit of fracas and beer thrown at players and followed down to dressing rooms and things like that. So they're all up tomorrow, and yeah, I'm sure it's tomorrow, if not Wednesday. They're all up in front of the men in the suits, so they better bring the best patisseries with them and be on good behaviour.
They're putting the perp back in Perpignan.
Yeah.
Nicely played, David.
Harry, like myself, you follow a gargantuan amount of rugby, but I feel like you played some pretty close attention to the French competition this year. What's your rating on the season, and how did you come to that highly scientific number?
It's probably an A. We'll give it a 93.2 for Hugh's benefit, because he likes precision. It had what you need. It has, no matter what people lie, they actually do like heavyweights clashing at the end. They like a split where it wasn't Toulouse getting both and it wasn't Bordeaux getting both. They like well-defined rivalries, extreme narratives. They like pathos. They like the whole of the country turning against the elites, whether it's Bordeaux or Paris or whatever, from your vantage point, who's the country bumpkin and who's the elite. They like pageantry. They like mermaids. They like magicians. They like comedians. They like 20 different reasons to go to a game, and only one is rugby. They want to have an all-day experience. They don't want to rush the game like they're trying to do down under. They like it to be belabored. They want extreme waste of time. They want reloads, and they want different styles. And I think Toulon played a much different style than Toulouse, than Bordeaux, than La Rochelle, than Bayonne, and that's great. And then of course there's just a knowledge of how to make le spectacle.
Pathos, he was the skinny one of the Three Musketeers, I'm pretty sure, right?
A lot of it comes from the fact that some players are so beloved by regions, and they are of that region, and they come from the soil there, and it speaks to why they even have teams in the first place. They really care. I mean, they just really care about losing on their home pitch. I think also that the coaches prowling around each other and doing that fake WWE stuff, that's cool too.
Hugh, what about you? What's your rating for this season? And I'm wondering also, you probably have some sneaky cool stats kind of sitting around there somewhere on your screen right now. Got anything to share with us?
Well, I'm not sure that I can justify my rating via stats, because I think that the top 14 is the most je ne sais quoi of all of the leagues. When you talk about URC or Super Rugby, you always find yourself, here's the evidence, this is why, this is like they've got this many teams do this, or this is the ball in play time or something like that. Whereas with the top 14, there's none of that. I think the only stat that matters is how many people tune in to watch it. And in the case of the final, there was 80,000 people in the stadium. There was 40,000 people on the streets of Bordeaux watching it on big screens. There was 20,000 people on the streets of Toulouse watching it on big screens. And there was 5.1 million people in just France tuning to watch it on TV.
And there was two dudes in America.
That's all the stats that you need to prove just how good it is in terms of good stats. So myself and Maz, we were planning what we're going to talk about on our pod tomorrow, and I was thinking, should we do try of the season? And then I checked, and there was exactly 1,100 tries scored this season. So
Wow.
any kind of attempt to kind of pick one, I think is somewhat foolhardy. So
maybe a top 100 side episode.
maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh, can you imagine? Oh yeah. There was so many sensational tries last year. There were a lot of tries scored, but they didn't seem to be as sensational as this year. Remember last year it was Flash. His try was spectacular, but there's been about 10 of them scored like that this year. So yeah, I don't even have a favorite try. I love them all.
It was an amazing year. All these beautiful elements we were just discussing, it culminated in an epic clash this Saturday at the Stade de France. Maz, I heard you talking this week about the logistical problems that this posed for traveling fans. Any insights to how that actually unfolded? And by the way, the obvious question, were you there?
No, I wasn't. Unfortunately, because of kind of with my husband and health and things like that, big stadiums, big crowds, they're not a great thing. So we go to home games or just a few away games during the year. We go to about 8 to 10 games. The big semi-finals and finals we avoid. Honestly, in Stade de France, you're sometimes looking at a little miniature Jalibert running around. So you're there, you get the ambience, you get everything. But yeah, no, we do the big games with friends. Yeah.
Did you hear any stories though about how the transportation problems worked out?
Oh God, yeah, loads of them. Loads of them, because I was following the UBB fans as they were going up. There was 13 supporter buses that left at 5:45 in the morning. One of them apparently had the horn that was broken. I was on all the time until about, I'm trying to figure out.
It was broken.
Can you imagine?
That is very French.
And yeah, they
Nothing
made
I
a
can
pit
do.
stop somewhere, not far past here, and somebody apparently ripped it out. Another 2 buses broke down. They all did get there.
Phew.
One of the TGV trains, however, didn't get there. It broke down, and they didn't get to the match at all.
Wow.
So that was very disappointing. Yeah. And then on the way back, there was 22 TGV trains because they would go from Paris to Bordeaux and then on to Toulouse, and 740 people in each train. So there will always be your normal commuters even. And 22 was the max that they could put on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think there's still people in Paris. I think the people missed things, you know yourself what goes on, but yeah.
Oh, by the way, Maz, this is probably the last chance I'll actually try at this. I need some buy-in here. So we've got Bordeaux Beg. There are UBB. We've got Louis Biarré.
Mm-hmm.
I know you like LBB or LBB. Surely it can be Lou Bebe, right? I've been pushing this for several months. I need somebody to corroborate my infantile pun. I'm like a shipwrecked sailor clinging to this wreck here. Can we go with Lou Bebe?
Sure, baby.
Lou Bebe. We'll do it for this show.
It's the tiny victories.
I think what will confuse people is the Lou, which is Lyon. Lyon are known as Lou. Lyon Olympic University. So they're called Lou. So
okay.
Yeah, yes, there's always something.
June 30th. Mark it down.
But
the death of my infantile pun. So the top 14 final was Saturday afternoon for me. It was a perfect time for the match in Paris. The golden red sunshine arcing across the upper tiers of the arena. Mother Nature herself was fired up for this event. It was an instant classic. Of course, for supporters like me and Maz, a bitter ending after so many hopeful moments. But in the end, Toulouse showed us what they're all about, winning 39-33 in double overtime. Maz, got to start with you. What were your reactions in the moment, and how bummed are you right now? How are you recovering, I guess, a couple of days later?
I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of the season that they've had, especially after being absolutely demolished last year, scoring just one penalty in the final, to come back and to bring it to extra time. Because at one stage it was looking, when they went down by 10 points, even Mr. Mackey kind of threw something against the wall and he said, that's it, you know. And I thought, oh, I didn't like that. I was getting a bit, and never forget that Luku penalty at the 80th minute, just over. We go for extra time.
He didn't look like he was doubting it.
No, he didn't. And most of his penalties and most of his kicks, some of them were very minimal. They're either just to the left or just to the right of the post. And I was kind of, oh, God. But to lose,
by the way,
final,
were you hoping they would
finish?
Were you hoping they would finish that second overtime and go to a kicking battle, or did you want it to end the way? Well, obviously not the result, but without going to that extra little bit.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have liked it to go to the extra bit. No. I prefer losing the way they did than that kind of penalty kick out thing, because unfortunately, it's like everything else. If a player misses a penalty, you could be subjected to a lot of, you know yourself what goes on at times with some idiots on social media and things like that. So, no, I was glad that it ended the way that it did, but never, ever, ever can write Toulouse off. They're just too good. The pack is just the pack. What can you say? They're just awesome. They're just
Harry,
awesome.
In the past, you and I have talked about these teams. I think both of us kind of, when we talk about UBB, we found it hard to take the defense seriously. I thought they might have dispelled that notion last week, but was that the difference this weekend?
Yeah, well, across all the finals, championship caliber came back to the front. And it wasn't just in this particular group. It had DNA, it had memories, faint memories of the past, and Crusaders, and the rise of the big clubs and how they can finish things and close things. That's not quite the narrative I'm looking at here, because Bordeaux, UBB did actually crawl back into it, and they did make Toulouse sweat. But just that old saying about Sam Whitelock in the World Cup semi-final against Ireland, quarterfinal, I'm sorry, was he
it wasn't
when the lights are out, he still knows where the switch is, where the light switch is. He can get from his bed to the light switch because there's just something you remember. It's handed down. There's an expectation in Toulouse that you're always going to find a way to get there. And so what I felt from Bordeaux' side was, that's not quite true all the way, but it still is true, but we're coming for you. Because you look at incremental changes from year on year on year, and you'd have to be worried if you're Toulouse. But they're just one year too early. The kind of style they play in a final could work against the Saints, but it's not going to work against Toulouse to run away with it. And then you're still going to grind down, and you're still down to making kicks. I thought the player of the match for Bordeaux was Pete Samu counter-rucking on his own self and winning a penalty, like that kind of thing. And there was more barge from Toulouse down the stretch. There was more mischief and nuisance at the ruck. And in the end, it was just not enough. But I don't think anyone walks away from that match thinking there's nothing between these two teams. Play that again, it'll be the same this way, the other way. So it sets up, what I would say is, that's the health of the league. It sets up a year from now or next season, revenge, and how far have we gone and how far you gone down. And also underlying the whole thing, when you saw Toulouse being so emotive at the end and almost like, the world was against us and you will show you, was this idea of, we were written off because we lost our general. And there they were playing arguably better, just as well. I don't know. They learned to play different ways without their most important player. And that was interesting too. So the whole thing conspired to have, for the neutral out there in the world, you could tune in and really enjoy it.
Hugh, Harry kind of just drew a beautiful underline about my fear, actually, because I don't know if this means it's revenge next year. For me, this might have been UBB's best chance. No Dupont. Kinghorn clearly not 100%. No Capuazzo. Entimac goes out early. Like, this was the window, right? It's not going to get better next year.
I think I don't think it's fair to say it's not going to get better next year. I think that is a very valid point to say about the injuries that Toulouse have. Now, when you spend 60 million euros a season on your rugby, maybe injuries isn't an excuse that you get to pull out like other teams get to. But the fact is that they did have injuries, and you would say that their most important player in Antoine Dupont hasn't been available for half the season. But then again, other players stepped up. You had Thomas Ramos stepping up to be the guy. And I think that, for all of he may be a polarizing figure. Some people don't like him, Maz.
I've got a little bit about him coming up.
I think he's been excellent for Toulouse and for France this season. And like Paul Grau coming in and doing a job, one. There's at no point have I heard anyone say like, "Oh, if they had Dupont." I mean, I guess they've won it, so there was no opportunity to say that, but. It worked. Actually, Paul Grau went to 10 in the game that I went to see in Marseille against Toulon, and that worked amazingly well. So, yeah. So I would say that if I'm Bordeaux now, the next meeting that I'd be having is I would be calling Yannick Brou into the office if I was the CEO and saying, "Look, 3 players. You're getting 3 players. What 3 do you want? Because if you're the European champions, you've been in back-to-back top 14 finals." Now is the time to recruit. Now is the time you can go out and get anyone you want. So I'd be saying, who do you want? And Harry, I know you interviewed the CEO of the Bulls recently. If I'm in charge of Bordeaux, then that CEO is coming into work on a Monday morning, finding 10 million rand in his bank account, and his front row mysteriously disappeared. Because that's for me where the final was won and lost. It's funny as well. If I mention Super Rugby again, these 2 leagues that have gone about their business in so polar different ways, and everything about them on and off the pitch is different. Both finals were decided, in my opinion, by kicking 3-pointers won by scrum penalties.
Absolutely.
That's where this game was won and lost. And that's C'est Rugby. That's the game. That's what we do. So I would say that it's not over for Bordeaux, but I do think that they need to get a couple of faces in the door. And I'd say that now is the time they're recruiting from a position of strength.
By the way, Hugh, before the match, I heard multiple stories about how Louis Bielbiaré, I was just about to say Lou Bebe, but I got to give it up, about how he had a remarkable recovery from his concussion. That's just code, right? For he was like, I'm not staying out.
I think he said in an interview, like, sorry, they want me to not play in a final with all my best friends. No, I'm going to do that. 2 paracetamol and he was fine. Although he did go off at halftime injured, but I think it was a slightly different injury, but the boys were running to the ground.
The first time he got crunched on the ground, I was like, oh God, no. Still,
well, that's the game, isn't it? That's all sports. It's the same in soccer as well. Like, who's their best player? We'll make sure, as the old saying goes, get your first tackle in early, even if it's late. That's what sport is. That's just how it goes. But he still finishes the season with 31 tries in 30 games. So not bad.
He's the Will Jordan of France.
And it's all right if you're UBB, because on the other wing, you've got Damien Penaud, and he's pretty good as well.
Harry, what's your take on this final? You and I have talked about Dupont. This weekend, we kind of already alluded to it. This weekend may have proved that Thomas Ramos is more important to Toulouse than Antoine Dupont. My takeaway stat, of course, was this victory was the 15th consecutive win for Toulouse when Ramos was playing. Harry, tell us about Monsieur Ramos.
Yeah, I can see Maz's point. I don't think he's that likable. He's low on the Riz. Ramos lacks Riz. Okay, so rugby is not the kind of game where one player can really, just turn around everything in a moment. I mean, you could argue that Ardie Sauvé kind of did that with Moana Pacifica, but not really. I mean, even like the best player in the world, well, have him come to a club match. You're not going to see the club suddenly win 150-0. It's just a complicated game. You can nullify things. Ramos is a guy that's hard to nullify because when you play from the back, you get those balls. You're going to get some catches, and then you have some space. You have more space than any other player has to do something in the next 5 seconds. They often take the personality on of the coach, so they're often the coach's alter ego or their hated Freudian alter ego, and they are the ones that can do different things. A 15 can trigger something that shouldn't happen, do it. He also has the tee in his hand. So Ramos is an influential figure. He also could, if he plays his cards right, be the kind of try-assist starter guy that sometimes it's hard to do from 9, because 9 is like, you just said, you can touch the 9. You can hammer him. He's going to get hurt if he's too influential. Whereas 15 can stay away from the fracas. Look, Ramos is one of those guys, every time he kicks, I go, it's over. Even if he misses, I go, no, I think it was over. He's that kind of kicker. He's just got an economical lead up. He's, been Colby-ized, so now he's even shortened his lead up. And he doesn't seem to give a flip. He just seems to be okay in whatever situation. And that's nice to have. It's always nice to have someone at the back who just, you don't have to worry when you're the forward. You go, he's got that. He'll run it through, come back to me. I can just stand right here and wait for him to come put me on onside. I just think in general, rugby's not that kind of thing where we like to hype it and turn it into a sport. It's not. It's not a single individual. I am the guy. I am the GOAT. So therefore, now it doesn't work like that. You can neutralize and you can make another team play a different way. So Toulouse has shown remarkable adaptiveness. They'll obviously rue parts of the season because they will always believe they should win both. And I think Bordeaux, to your point about was it their best window? And I don't think so, because they, like you said, they can recruit. They know exactly what they're missing. It's like a template, and you could just start to spend on tight forwards.
Hugh, by the way, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this. Harley tells me that you'll probably really enjoy this. You kind of look like Thomas Ramos. Give us your take on how he's influenced Toulouse this year.
I think I've heard that from someone before. I can't remember exactly where or when, but that's
you're gonna have to get better at spitting in people's faces. But it's the game. I don't mind it. I don't have a hatred for him. Thomas Ramos, not the top point scorer in the top 14. That honor goes to Joe Simmons, MBE. You have to say legally. He's only the 4th top point scorer, but the difference is that he did it in 500 fewer minutes than Thomas Ramos. Than Joe Simmons. I think he could evolve into the French Villiers Leroux. And I think Villiers Leroux's gotten to that point in his career where he understands the game, and he's like, he has the moments in games, or maybe all of games sometimes, where he goes, move aside, fly half. Unnamed Bulls fly half. He's not very good. I'm going to take charge now. And then he's spraying the passes and things. Obviously, Galtier values him for whatever reason more as a fly half than he does Mathieu Jalibert. I hope we get a chance to talk about Jalibert because I've got lots to say about him. Scribbling furiously.
He just knows what to do, and he's got that back three that Toulouse have. They've got those options that they have of all fullbacks, all test fullbacks of Ramos, Capuozzo, Kinghorn, and Malia. He's got the guys either side of him. In the case of this game, being Kinghorn and Malia, he's like, okay, well, I know I don't need to worry about the high ball because these two are winning all the high balls. And anyway, that's not how UBB kicked the ball anyway. They kicked long, so it's not going to be such of a worry. So he can just be the strategizer. He can be the real brain of the team because Untermax's USP is that he's the 10 that does the least. He's the one who does nothing. He's the one who lets other people in the team do all the things. And so that allows Ramos to be the strategizer, the one who comes up with the plan on the pitch. And I always got the impression with Toulouse is that I think there's the similarity with Real Madrid in football, where famously Carlo Ancelotti would go, look, you're the best players. Here's the pitch. I'm going to pick the best players. Here's the team. You guys figure out how you're going to win this because you're the best players in the world. You paid the most money in the world. So you figure out how you win. And I think that's what Toulouse's players are the best at doing.
On your point, Hugh, that's a good point about Intermac. You take the Six Nations, which has the most comparable stats because everyone starts their best players all the time. And so sometimes you have a tournament where you have every single 10 plays all the same amount of times. And when you do that, the one stat you can never look at and do anything with is Intermac because it doesn't look like any of the others. He doesn't do anything. I mean, he does stuff, but he's not the one doing the exits. He's not the one doing the starter plays. Literally, he is a conduit as opposed to Finn Russell or the other ones you might look at, from Marcus Smith, etc.
I actually think that's why he's started picking up a few more tries because it's genuinely he gets the ball and teams think okay, I need to watch the guys outside him, and he drifts in, like he scores a lot of tries off
He's
scrums in 22s because they go like all the defenses like, right, watch the 9 and then watch Chocobaras or Peter Aki or Juan Cruz or whoever it is. And they go, oh, he's run and he's gone. Oh, damn, missed that. He was the one guy we didn't think to mark. And that's just his cloak of invisibility, shall we say.
Maz, I know it must be difficult to reflect positively, but if the result had gone the other way and Bordeaux had won, who would have been your player of the match?
Luku. Yeah, he was absolutely outstanding. he did get a help, but no, he was outstanding because he's such a good captain. He's such a good leader. Moefana had an excellent game as well. Really has stood up. Samu, Guido Petty, apart from the yellow card, Guido Petty had an excellent game as well. Yeah, they would have been my picks, yeah. And Penno was, Jalibert. There was a few of them all around the same, but Luku, I can never go past him. He's just such an inspirational man. I just love him. Yeah.
This one's for any of you. Did the right team win?
Is everybody frozen?
Did the right team win?
Yeah, I think they were too good. That was too good. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I think the right team won. Our discipline was absolutely shocking. It's been quite good all year. 2 yellow cards.
2 yellow cards didn't help.
17 penalties or something.
So, 17. They've been averaging 10 all season, second best in the league, and all of those, most of those came from the scrum. Unfortunately,
overall,
Big Ben had a difficult gun.
I can't say that the best.
Hugh and Harry, you both agree?
David, I always think that the right team wins. I mean, I
am that.
It simplifies my life if I do it that way, and then I can talk about why someone lost or why someone won. But the minute I start assigning some sort of like morality scheme to it, I lose my way, and I start making a 62-minute video, and I get Rasid.
Yeah, I think if you look at the overall season stats, like Toulouse are a long way ahead on absolutely everything. So, yeah, I think that you can't say that the best team didn't win. Unfortunately, as much it is a bit dull, that we got Toulouse win the top 14, we got Leinster win the URC, we got the Crusaders win Super Rugby, and we had the Free Jacks winning MLR, which is the most boring of all the American Leinster. Once again, walking home with the title. It's just you just reached right into my script, because how weird is it that we went quadruple or maybe quintuple chalk? URC, the Prem, Super Rugby, and now the top 14. The number 1 and number 2 teams faced off in the final, and the number 1 team won. In each case, and obviously you can't say it's weird that the top team won, but no upsets, 5 times in a row? Weird. It's almost a relief, because I think there's always a question mark over playoff formats of leagues, because you'd say you just played a whole season, someone finished top, so we've clearly proved who the best team is. So what? And when when Munster won the URC from 7th, that's is how credible is that? But I'm going to get Munster fans on me now. But when you get the 2 best teams clearly in every final, then you can't complain, can you? So that I actually like it that way. Yeah, me too. From a sporting point of view. The once upon a time there were tennis tournaments where there was no seeding, and you would rock up, and you'd have these unfortunate things happen, and it wasn't good for the fans. It wasn't good for the interest. And then someone said, what we should do is design something artificially where we're more likely to have the best against the best at the end. That's good. I like that. And it pays off. I mean, you look at the attendance figures from the leagues we should copy, like the French, and you see that the design is all about that. The length of the season winnows out the pretenders. It's gonna be the best teams. That spectacle is what people want. Jeopardy, ferocity, the feeling that you are watching something that is rare and that's memorable and maybe historic.
Anyone have any final thoughts on the actual final from this weekend? Standout performances, players we haven't mentioned yet. You kind of put in a specific request for the guy I called the jelly bear.
Yeah, I think I just have loved watching him every minute this season. I think that Mathieu Jalibert and Maxime Lucu, UBB have got the best halfback partnership in the world. You can say whether 110 might be better or 19 might be better, but as a duo, I can't think of a better one right now. And I've loved every minute of watching Jalibert. It's etched in my mind. It was actually a defeat for UBB, but against Racing away in Racing, they were losing with like 3 minutes to go. Jalibert gets the ball on his own try line, kicks a grubber kick through to himself and runs 80 meters up the pitch, and UBB nearly get the winning try off it. And just they started calling him the maestro this season, and he's been absolutely perfect. And he just makes you feel something. I put him in the kind of Manu Lebock kind of genre of tens, of ones that just make you feel something, and it might not work every time, but you're going to remember it and you're going to want to watch it again next week. And I just loved the stats that he puts up every single game. It's a masterclass, and I don't understand why France can continually ignore this guy. And I'm not saying like, I get it, right? You want to play off 9, and you've got the best 9 in the world, and you want to play off him, and you've got his halfback partner that knows how to get the best out of him. Okay, fine. He's injured. The halfback partner that is currently playing for France is Jalibert's halfback partner, who I've just said is the best halfback partnership in the world. So I'm not saying make him the number one. I'm not saying play him every single week. I'm not saying that he would work with Antoine Dupont perfectly. But in a world where we have the Springboks with 3 fly halves that they rotate and rotate and rotate, why can't France do the same? So, yeah, that turned into a bit of a rant at the end. But I just have loved every second of watching matches this season.
One of my wackiest rugby theories is that the top 14 teaches us to understand words that are French just because of the way they go about things. So if you want to know what the word insouciance means, you just need to watch Mathieu Jalibert just walking out on the pitch, and boom. Oh, that's it. That's it right there. By the way, Maz, what were some of your happy memories from this year? There was a lot of great highlights, some incredible moments for UBB. What stands out for you when you look back in the sort of, rosy colored glasses, if you can put them on?
It's when you're at a game. I think it's when you're at a game and someone like Romain Bourreau takes the ball on his own try line and starts the run, and it could be to Lubebe, Penaud, Jalibert. You can actually feel the whole crowd starting to go with them and get behind them, and it's like this kind of roar that goes with them, because when they go, when that back line hits and they are on fire, it is something else to see, and being at it, and it's the way that the people feed off them, and it's over 32,000 in the stadium, and the whole stadium is actually shaking. And then they get over the try line, and it's just this boom of noise. It's that kind of thing that I remember more than anything else, rather than special moments. It's been there and just seeing how the people react, and because they've just been fantastic. They really have.
Harry, a highlight of the season for me had to be Bayonne, who were a Pro D2 team just 4 years ago. They hosted and won a playoff game. Like, you've got to be impressed with their season, right?
Yeah, it's weird. I like those two kinds of teams. I like the posh teams like Bordeaux, where it's a casual, well-heeled poshness, and even the game day experience is very, very, very pleasant. The mean streets of Bordeaux are not quite that mean. I like all that. I like their uniform. I like how good looking their forward pack is. Pete Samu, Guido Petty. And then I also like these kind of not completely fit, bad jerseys that look bad in the rain. Just sort of scrappy Bayonnes. I like it a lot. I like Aveyron Bayonne. I like the fact that they play in a weather place. I like that it's a bit shabbier.
You're just describing Camille Lopez here. That's all you're talking about.
But I mean, like, you look at Camille Lopez and you go, I mean, this is what you do for a living. If all I did was train and I had a nutrition, I don't know, whatever. My point is that it's fun to watch that. And when you look at team sheets, they're not as influenced by the international season. There's not this giant migration out of them like you would see like for Saints in Premiership. And so I quite like that the top 14 has such variety in these 60 million euro, packed full of 23 internationals. And then you have something like Bayonne where it's people, they look like they could play in your beer league.
Hugh, this year, Vaughan, they came up and they went right back down. It's the margins are so thin. It's so difficult to stay up. What do you foresee for the newest member of the top 14 this coming season?
Montauban. I think they're going to struggle. They finished sixth in the Pro D and they came up. Going back to my playoff thing, there's something that Maz pointed out to me, like how come the bottom club in the top 14 gets relegated automatically, but the top club in the Pro D doesn't get promoted automatically? But it brings drama, I suppose. Yeah, I think they really put together a hot streak at the end of the season. If you look at their expenditure, if you look at their team, and supposedly the rumors are they're not going to make many signings, I think they're going to have a very, very tough time. I think everyone's very sad about Vaughan going down. I think they were everybody's second favorite team.
They were fun.
The culture that they brought from Brittany, being the first Breton team ever to make the top 14, that Celtic thing that they lean very heavily into, they have about them. I think they enriched the league, and I think I saw lots of messages from other fans saying thank you to Vaughan to just made it something special, one of the mini stories of the league. And and the what you're right in saying the margins were so fine, because Perpignan on the last day of the season beating Toulouse at home, but still having to play the access match, and then playing a dogged Grenoble team that could have gone either way. Tommy Allen kicking the penalty with 3 minutes to go to keep them in the league. That's high stakes sport. That's high drama.
The access game might be my favorite game every single year. It's unlikely that it's going to go anyway, but the way you'd think. But the stakes, whoo!
Oh, the highest stakes game that I ever heard of was when Biarritz played Bayonne in the access match, and they if you look at a map, it's like it's the same place, and they don't like each other. You talk about teams that don't like each other. No, they really don't like each other, and that went to a penalty shootout. And can you imagine, like, the team that you hate the most in the world relegates you off a penalty shootout? You're not going into work the next day. Like your life is ruined.
Well, I know it's been a pretty UBB-centric. Oh, go ahead, please.
Sorry, it's just about Van. I actually went to the last home game of the season, and it was UBB against Van. Van, I think, would have had to win by the bonus point to even have a hope of maybe staying up. But there were a lot of supporters down there, maybe about 3,000-4,000 supporters down from Van, and they were absolutely wonderful. I mean, even at midnight on the trams going back into this, because it was all 9 o'clock kickoffs for the last game. Every game was at 9 o'clock, and we all partied after, and they were all doing their dance up and down through the trams and through the trains, and they are just absolutely wonderful, and they will be missed. Everybody, as you said, everybody's second favorite team. They were just brilliant. Yeah, and they got such a send-off when the team came around, the Van team came around. Everybody in the stadium stood up and applauded them, and it was almost not a home game, but they got that much support from the UBB supporters. It was great to see.
I love
really
that.
Good to see. Yeah.
Well, we've been pretty UBB-centric, but I do want to ask Maz, biggest happy surprise on UBB this year? Like, got great performances from all the players we expected great performances from, but who sort of stepped up and maybe made you go, oh, wow, this person's really overachieving from what I expected?
There's two. One's not overachieving. Somebody actually this year probably had the best season he had with UBB was Guido Petty, because he's had a long run of injuries, and he hasn't really played with them for 18 months. I don't think he played between being injured, going to the Pumas, getting injured, and then coming back. And he had a fantastic season. Like, okay, he'd be a star player, but he needed that big season, and now he's gone. My other favorite that I think this year made a big leap is Cyril Kazu. He's Troisième Lean. What's it?
Back row.
Yeah, thank you. A back row. And he stepped up. He really has stepped up. He's one of my favorite players in that team. Yeah, and a good leader as well. So,
by the way,
yeah.
Only a couple of days ago, when I was kind of searching for some interesting stuff for this show, I discovered that Damien Penaud's nickname is the geography teacher, which I'm still laughing about. Like, how perfect is that? Just put some like prop glasses on the guy. But are we missing out on other nicknames? Do you have any insights into these player nicknames that I just am never going to hear living in the United States?
Not really, and I've never heard that. Oh, that's a new one on me. Never heard it. No, I don't actually have any nicknames on them. No. Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I had to take a swing just in case.
On first name terms with all of them anyway.
So. Yes, exactly. So by the end of our season, our top four were Toulouse and UBB, obviously followed by Toulon and Bayonne. Hugh, is that how the top table is going to look next year?
Start with Toulon. I think Toulon will be disappointed with how their season ended. I think as an overall squad, I think you can debate first 15s, but I think their overall squad is stronger than UBB's, and I think they'll be disappointed. They just didn't show up in any of the big games. Like they were flat track bullies. I thought they looked fantastic at times, but if they came up against decent or strong opposition, they didn't show up. And I think they should be disappointed with how that went. And there's a lot of players leaving now, just by the number of players leaving and the number of players rumored have you believe that they've requested to leave. That suggests that dressing room isn't that happy. And this isn't the first season that we've heard that. So I think Toulon should be disappointed because I think they had an opportunity to get into a final this season. So that's a shame. For Bayonne got to the semi-finals based off home form. They did not show up away from home. They won every game at home. And what you tend to see with teams that do that is that next season teams will just go, okay, so we just pick a stronger team for when we go to Bayonne then. And they only got 2 try bonus points all year.
Wow.
Only 2 in the whole season. So I think Bayonne's a bit like Stade Francais in the previous season. Their underlying stats were not great, were actually pretty poor. And Bayonne stats, maybe not to the same extent, but aren't amazing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bayonne be a bit of a flash in the pan this season and drop down a little bit next season. And you would expect that based on the recruitment that La Rochelle have done and then being in the Challenge Cup, which is hilarious, for next season, they should be stronger. They should be back, which is scary.
Harry, any team's going to jump up? Oh, by the way, is this coming season the return of Paris? Will the Parisian teams figure out how to get the thumb out, I guess?
Nah, don't think so. I think Toulon will be in the top 3. I don't think Bayonne will stay in there. They'd have to work on their remarkable fitness standards. Probably you look at Montpellier, you look at Lyon, you look at La Rochelle, and from those 3, maybe one of those gets in and bumps Bayonne out. I don't. So it's so difficult because in the French clubs, how much movement there might be still. Even late breaking. It's not like expecting what the Crusaders will do or the Hurricanes. There's not that much movement from outside, but it's going to be hotly contested. The race for the free agents and for the buyouts and for Hughes talks about just getting some big South African beef to come over.
Maz, what do you think? What are we looking at for next year?
Yeah, I agree with my 2 good friends there. Toulouse, Bordeaux, I still think they're going to be ahead of the pack of Toulon. La Rochelle with the recruitment should be there. I think Bayonne will probably struggle, might get around to playoffs. Pau might, Po had a terrible start to the season injury-wise. At one stage, they had 18 of their first squad injured. If they can keep together, there's a chance that they might. But I think the gap is too big between some of them. I can't see Racing doing much. I can't see Stad doing much. Yeah. You're probably looking again at the likes of Claremont and Cast to make up that sixth kind of place.
If I just zoom in on what Maz raised there, I think Poe's a great shout because they've had some great recruitment. They recruited Julien Montoya into their front row. They've recruited Facundo Issa into their back row. They're going to have a back row of Gorgadze from Georgia, Issa from Argentina in there as well. Carwyn Tuipulotu from Wales, obviously, and I really like what they've done with their recruitment. I think probably top four is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I think I can see them getting into top six. Although they do have Champions Cup this season, which is interesting to see how that will go because when they were in the Challenge Cup, they are the definitive Challenge Cup team. Poe away is the Challenge Cup game, and you're playing against like Poe's electrician who's been thrown out onto the pitch. Just like, well, I don't even play. We don't care about this game. Go and play. So that's one. In terms of the Parisian teams, Racing, just a mess of a club, honestly. Yeah. And they've signed. Who did they sign the other day? I can't remember. By
the way, for you and Maz, one of the best reasons to listen to the Top 14 Digest all of this past season is all the stuff about Racing. It's been amazing.
I can't. They've signed someone. They signed a South African or something. And you go, well, how's this going to turn out? Is it going to turn out like all the other ones? I'm kicking myself now. I can't remember who it was. But I
can't think of who it is either.
I don't know. They have horrible integration in their foreign signings.
But it was actually Thaler from the Rugby Bits podcast pointed it out to me as like when Toulon won all their stuff, they signed players who would quit Test rugby, like Matt Giteau, like Brian Abana, like Johnny Wilkinson. Whereas Racing are like, who's the most active international in the world? Okay, let's sign him. And it doesn't work. And when they won the title, their only trophy ever, it was with Dan Carter when he'd quit the All Blacks. So they get that wrong. Like, for example, they signed Henry Arundel from England, from London Irish, I think he came from. That didn't necessarily work out great. And they've now signed Ravuta Mada from the Fijian Drua, to replace him.
Oh.
Cool, great. Not similar players at all. What is the scouting thing? What is the logic behind, what's the profile of player that you want? Other than just, they must be good. Okay, yes, you've signed a good player, but these players are not similar to each other at all. So what's the logic? What's the game plan that's coming here? And yeah, I don't even know who their coach is these days. Yeah, and you got Jackie trying to merge them with
I think, yeah.
You mentioned Harry Arundel. The guy's name, for me, he's moved beyond posh into the realm of the fantasy here, where he's like, I'm Prince Harry of Arundel.
Arundel is a place that's got. I don't know if you know this, but Arundel is a place in the south of England. It is famous for its castle. It's famous for its castle with beautiful gardens. I'll send you some pictures after.
And that's where he was born, in one of those gardens.
Very nice place.
I think I'm with the consensus here that Bayonne are going to struggle next year. Montpellier look dangerous. Their biggest impediment could be Interpol.
They look dangerous because of all the assault convictions that they've got.
Yes, exactly. The Houston Sabercats of France.
And their some of their leaders are still under indictment, conviction, and appeal.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've got it. Oh no, it's not on this one because this is a World Cup one. There's sponsors proudly emblazoring the All Blacks, Monsieur Altrad.
And the Western Force.
I'm sorry, the captain can't tell you what the plan is for today because his attorney has advised him. Maz, if you were in charge of the top 14, is there anything you would change, or is this the perfect competition that we just witnessed?
I think it is pretty much the perfect competition. They have a lot of, during the Six Nations, they call them doublons here, where a lot of games are actually played during the Six Nations. And it's essentially not for all the teams, but the big teams like, obviously, Toulouse, Bordeaux, they play during the Six Nations. And it's basically two B-ish teams playing each other. That is probably not great. But then you're extending the season out longer, and there's teams back in training the 1st of July. The Pro D2 are all back in training tomorrow. So you had a final of Top Tours Saturday night. Pro D2 is back training tomorrow. It's like it never stops. It's this continual, so what you'd like to do is not realistic with player safety and timeframes, because it gets so hot. Like, it's over 40 degrees here today. When Grenoble and Perpignan played in their playoff match, it was 42 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Wow.
So So you have that to think of as well. And even when they start their friendly games in August, you're in the middle of the summer. It's so...
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think it's a good product, and I wouldn't change much. I'd have definitely more insistence on more tight shorts. That would definitely be very high on my list. The tight shorts are not tight enough this year. And that is my reckoning why Stade Francais are not good.
Hugh, are the shorts tight enough for you?
No.
And how much tighter should the shorts in the URC be to take a nice page out of the top 14 book?
Oh, look, I think if you ask some of the Edinburgh and Glasgow guys, they'd say we like quite baggy shorts, please, especially in comic and things. So yeah, I think I don't know where to go next.
Should the URC take any hints from the top 14?
Should the URC take any hints from the top 14? That's a great question, and it's difficult to answer because they're so different because of the URC's cross-border nature. Although you do have teams do fly to play each other in the top 14, which is something that URC critics would prefer not to talk about. But it's very difficult to say what they can take. I think that a major factor in the top 14's popularity is the fact that they play 26 regular season games a season, whereas the URC only play 18, which means you only have 9 home games a season, which means that you have less than 1 game a month, and you have in-season stretches where you can go over a month without a home game, which massively affects the engagement. Of course it does. So, contrary to what a lot of people say is that we need less games, we need less games. I think rugby clubs need a 20-plus game regular season to boost the engagement and to help their finances. That's my opinion. So I don't know how you would do that. Like I said, it's very difficult to pinpoint something that the top 14 do that the URC could do. I actually think that there's things that the top 14 could learn from the URC in terms of, or especially Super Rugby, actually, because they just don't care about English language content, and they could do so much with it. If you look at what the Super Rugby do with YouTube, the top 14 could do that all day long, but the top 14's YouTube highlights suck. They're rubbish, and they don't break 1,000 views, some of them. And it's not even like the live commentary. It's like a voiceover, and it's in French going, and then he gave the pass and ran over the try line. Oh, what a try. And that's it could do so much more. It's not like they haven't got the money for it. So I would say that's what the top 14, if it could be bothered, could be even bigger than it is outside of France.
Harry, what could Major League Rugby learn from the top 14?
The French leagues, both of them actually, are the best, well-run. So if all we care about is clubs, and that's all it is, and we want to drive our game into the channel of NBA or, how soccer plays itself, there's no doubt that you should only and always basically template everything from the French, because it is by far leaps and bounds. The Pro D2 is more lucrative than a lot of the other leagues, the top leagues, the teams. So they do it right. They have a lot of content. You have to have an abundance of games to sell it to broadcasters. You have to have buy-in from mayors and regionals and departments, and they are literally saying to small towns right now, come into the third league, and we're going to give you this much money. Second league, they are already promised a lot of money. So MLR needs the assurance and the safety and security of future monies, and percentages and deals done above and below the table that make people safe and want to expand into towns like Minneapolis or Tucson or something. Just always driving growth, franchise, club. Obviously the game itself has to safeguard itself because we want to be a test rugby place. We want to be different. We want to have a vibrant with this never any friendlies. They don't exist. We all just want to die for our test matches. And that requires regulation because the French are being very self-interested, as they should. But we have significant fulcrums and leverage over them to make them do right by the game. And so happy picture for club rugby. Love it. It's the best. We should really focus more on places where rugby is doing well, like France, South Africa, and stop featuring, what we could do somewhere in Brisbane. That's where people like this. They like physicality, hard to get in the 22, tough rucks, really difficult to score in the top 14. It's not easy to score. We like the superlative tries, but the truth is it's a tough physical defensive league, as is South African rugby. And so we should copy that more. But MLR needs to do its, American acumen on business and sport and find a way to provide incredible ROI and incentives for like cities like Portland, cities like Providence, cities like Charlotte. There's cities that people aren't traveling to from overseas, but have 300 to 400 to 500,000 people who absolutely would love to have another pro team of another sport and niche in there. Yeah.
Any final thoughts before I let you all go? Maz, it sounds like you had a little comment there.
I actually don't know what I was going to say. This often happens with me. No.
By the way, Maz, you mentioned the doublés. That's one of the things I like about the top 14 is that they are playing during the Six Nations windows when these other competitions shut down. It's something I love about the NPC, the Storm Week fixtures, because I feel like it's just an extra test of the depth of your team. It can't be about 15 players. It has to be about the larger squad. And so I always love that. Of course, this year they added that to Major League Rugby, and I was like, how dare you? What? No way! A Tuesday night fixture? That's outrageous. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about
it. Yeah, and I think one of the things that we saw, and I know it wasn't just UBB, Toulon did it, and Toulouse. A lot of their espoirs, which would be their academy team, their under 23s, quite a lot of them played in the doublons, and they've played maybe 5 or 6 matches. The UBB espoirs, they actually won the championship as well this year as well. So they had a sensational year. They won it about, 2 weeks ago? And the ladies, they had a three-peat for the French women. So that was good.
Wow.
But I think you get to see young talent that you probably wouldn't get to know about, and then you start learning things about them. And quite a few of the Espoir team that won, they're being signed by other clubs, being signed by Bayonne, Biarritz, I think Montpellier's picked up one of them. Some of them are getting contracts as well with UBB, but that's what happens. So, yeah, I think it's a good way to get to know new young players. Yeah.
I've already kept you all more than the hour that you promised me. Thank you so much for joining us here. Anything we missed, Harry or Hugh, any final thoughts that you can't skip over before we call it pull down the curtain?
Watch the under-20s, guys. Under-20s in Italy in 40 degrees. Fantastic young players. Speaking of young players, brilliant rugby to watch. Been put on by World Rugby and really good stats as well. So fun to watch.
Just if anybody hasn't actually watched the top 14 final yet, and if you're in the UK or something, you've got access to Premier Sports, just watch it. It's that I heard Harry describe it as an opera. It couldn't be better, other than UBB winning, which is what I would have preferred the outcome to be.
Yeah,
it was just everything that you want. I was so excited before it, and I was excited during it, and I've been thinking about it ever since.
It was a cool testament to how good it was that my son came in the last 10 minutes, and he doesn't care about rugby at all, and he was like, "Oh, this is close." And then he got glued to the screen, watched the rest of it, and then watched both overtimes with me, and was crushed that my team didn't win at the end. It was a great little moment. Maz, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you. Enjoy your summer. I feel a lot more optimistic about Bordeaux now, actually, after hearing these guys talk about it. So maybe next season's the year, right?
Yeah, hopefully it is. We have the European Cup, which was part of a big plan, so they have to defend that and then see how they go. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you. That was absolutely wonderful. Really appreciate it. And my
Harry
first
and
time
Hugh.
saying
Yes.
hello to Harry like this.
Harry and Hugh, y'all are the best. It's great to have you together for a change. That's a new one for me, and it's just sort of the total is more than the sum of the parts, as they say.
Yeah, I've started now messaging Harry whilst I watch his podcasts. Like, hey, what about this? What happened there?
I like a lot of input. It's all good. Cheers, David. See ya, Hugh, and bisous, Maz.
So to everyone listening across the globe, cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, neat. You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?